Hello, everybody. William Draymond here, your friendly neighborhood artist, sharing from the heart of darkness paintings of light and shite. These are paintings going back to 1982, born out of the spontaneous self-expression of a young artist. By young, meaning, I was like 28 when I started painting, maybe 30. 1982, so I was like 31 when I started painting. But young, I'm just starting to get old. I'm 67. I don't know. Anyway, plein air painting is a awesome practice in the art form itself, within the art form itself. Standing in the middle of nature, standing in the middle of the universe, standing in the middle of cosmos, eternal time and space, looking at the world and painting. As the light changes, the atmosphere, and as you note, visual reality on your canvas or the surface you're working with, you automatically go deeper in consciousness within. And it takes painting landscape is different than painting a still life or painting a portrait because of that very reason of the movement of light as much as anything else, the way the light changes so rapidly, the way that what you're confronting moves in front of you, and you need to interpret that moment to moment in terms of your art and craft painting. So you're really thinking on your feet, and you're really, it takes a fair amount of surrender to let go to the point where you can really truly immerse yourself in that process of life energy moving through nature, which is one of the joys of landscape painting, maybe the central joy of confronting visual reality as the world and the landscape. So I began painting under the guidance of Antonio Salemi, born in 1892, and he died in 1995 at 102. 43 years in New York City. Quite a rich and illustrious history, and one of the most important 20th century artists that the world has yet to catch up with. As a teenager, he studied painting with George L. Noyes, and he was both a painter and a sculptor. But he studied painting with George L. Noyes. That's Noyes, if you want to Google that name. And George L. Noyes hung out with Monet in Europe for a while. And Tony himself really kind of advanced the art form in his own way and style. The last 30, 40 years of his life, his style really blossomed right along with his spiritual understanding of the world and nature. And he was always an artist from the time he was 8 or 9 years old. He had been patronized and supported as an artist. Very interesting, that story. He was the recipient of 2 Guggenheim Fellowships, which he spent that time in Paris. That was pre-World War II. Anyway, you couldn't have studied art with a better teacher, as far as I'm concerned. I would have never been an artist had I not met Antonio. But landscape painting was a big part of what we did and explored together. The music we're listening to is from the album Silent Photographer by Scenes, with the great jazz guitarist John Stowell. He's a friend of mine, and I really love the music. So painting is music. And the palette and the brush of an artist can be used with as much sophistication as any musical instrument. Each tonality, another note in an overall composition. You have rhythm, the movement of the brush, the expression of the life energy. You have color, tonal passages, a composition, which is a composition. And you have the personality of the artist. Which the medium itself is very capable of expressing that essential originality, which is the artist. And you know, when you're looking at painting, it's interesting to note that the painter doesn't create color. He chooses the color. So in a way, a painter is a conductor as much as anything else, conducting these forces, color and brush, in relationship to the world, motif, according to his or her personality, thought, feeling, and intuition. With beauty being the guiding light of the entire process. So, receptivity. this is a principle that you need to absolutely cultivate if you want to deepen your appreciation of art. And of course, that's with any of the arts that is true. You have to simply receive the vibrations of that art form through your nervous system. And then out of that receptivity, judgments arise that with practice, those judgments actually, generally people approach a work of art or a painting with some preconceived idea about what art is. And I know this very intimately because I went through this whole process. And it took me a number of years to get through that process where I dropped that conceptual bias and just received the vibrations of the work without concept, without judgment. So paintings are really contemplative doorways, and so you approach a work of art with this kind of absolute receptivity, as opposed to approaching it with a preconceived judgment, which generally they're subconscious. So that's what takes the work, is by looking at art, you begin to make those judgments conscious if you approach the process in a specific way with receptivity. Then what eventually happens is, out of the receptivity, a judgment will arise which has a value and an authority that goes beyond the conceptual pigeonholing that we commonly take as art appreciation. And then it's kind of like saying the proof is in the pudding. But if you approach something with the idea of, it's not supposed to taste like that, it's supposed to taste like this, so you already have that idea of what it's supposed to be, and then that clouds your judgment. And you may think you're right. You may act like you're an authority. You may think you're the ultimate authority about what is and what isn't beautiful or tasty. When really you are simply serving cultural conceptual biases, like the same way the neoclassical reviled the Impressionists, end quote. Impressionists has become how we name that particular group of people and those people who work in a certain kind of way. But Impressionism is really a very weak description of those painters. Alla prima. Alla prima means at the first. So you strive to put it down and not go over it. You allow the medium to have its say. And of course, when you give that medium that kind of space to express itself, you are expressing yourself as fully as you express the medium. That's the beauty of that. When you have an idea of what it's supposed to look like, initially, so you put something down and you say, oh, that's not right, I got to go over it, and then you do it again and again. Your mind enters into that process, and maybe you end up with something that ultimately becomes this kind of photorealistic expression of the world, which is just another concept, of course. But you end up dominating the medium, and in turn you are dominated by the medium. But you know, everybody, most people go, ooh, ah, look at that technical ability, wow. And I consider that to be about an adolescent grade expression of the human intelligence in terms of the art of painting, that neoclassical realism. It doesn't really even scratch the surface of what's possible in terms of color and brush. You can go the other direction, where the abstract doesn't represent the world at all, that there's no motif outside of the abstract qualities of brush and color, and you can spend your whole life in that way, painting without realizing that the abstract nature of reality is the source of beauty, without realizing that by following the dictates of that sort of fashionable trend of self-expression, you simply become the victim of a whole nother kind of conceptual trap or school, I don't know what you want to call it. You know, the abstract, I don't even, you know, anyway, forget it. Painting, the best painting of any period in history, is already abstract. The beauty of a sculpture or a painting is the abstract qualities that are imbued by the artist, by the movement of the artist's physicality in terms of the medium itself. It's abstract. You know, again, you get into this area where you're going to dominate the medium, or if you do that, the medium's going to dominate you. And why do we, you know, we look at Rembrandt. We love Rembrandt because he's Rembrandt. If he just kept breaking it, going to this, I saw a really interesting show of Rembrandt at the Phoenix Art Museum, and it was about Rembrandt and his contemporaries. Everybody else, every painting, there are 20 different artists at least, or something like that, 17, 20, I don't remember, and Rembrandt. And every one of those artists, besides Rembrandt, you could not tell one from the other in terms of style. They all painted with this kind of strict attention to some kind of understanding about what physical reality and the medium was supposed to do. And in Rembrandt, you see this incredible opening up of the medium and this incredible mastery of expression, which is Rembrandt. So we look at a Rembrandt painting and there's this, you can see every brushstroke, and this as he got older, his style flourished in that way. But you can see every brushstroke and the beautiful aesthetic that is the mind and heart and soul of Rembrandt. unbelievable. He understood and he expressed his understanding of the medium. He became the medium, and he was a master, a technician, so the technique served the process of the art. And he allowed that, so he dances and he sings, he plays music, he's not making a long-winded speech. Then the Impressionists are just Monet and Sisley and Pissarro, Cézanne, Van Gogh, Berthe Morisot, and Degas, and so on and so forth, Gauguin. They were musicians. Color, brush, motif, expressing personality and intelligence of the artist in balance. So you get originality of voice, you know. It's not some kind of contrived originality, which becomes what they call stylistic as opposed to style, originality of style. That contrived becomes stylized. So in a way, I just kind of wait. I'm waiting for people to hear my music, and instead of judging to the point where they can't see anything almost, they just pass it off as because they're looking at something that I'm not concerned with. And what they see, I'm only in conjecture now, but there's this sense that I'm waiting to be heard, you know. I'm waiting for people to see the beauty I'm expressing and the value of that. And if you're looking for somebody to tell you it's beautiful, and you can't feel it or see it for yourself, well, then it doesn't really mean anything anyway. So you need, you know, it's frustrating. To say the least. To have an original voice and to simply be discarded continually as irrelevant or really not worth that much when you're actually looking at works of beauty and ecstasy and joy of expression that will create that vibration in your space if you are willing to be receptive and receive the vibrations simply to the fact that it has music and it will deepen for you over time, and you will begin to recognize value. It has the ability to actually turn your value system inside out. And let me say it again, my paintings are contemplative doorways. In other words, if you put your attention on them with receptivity, it will lead you to deeper experiences of bliss and joy, which is the reason why I paint. Contemplative doorways, mandalas. They're not simple circles of energy and light that they're not as they're mandalas, okay? They don't come around this concentric circle idea of the mandala. They don't express it and order it around that in an overt way. But the balance and the accent, the rhythms and the movements are the same thing. This is the beauty of painting. They're contemplative doorways. And that's, if you don't, the degree of possibility is just very profound when you open yourself through receptivity to the work. It's both simple and it's very difficult at the same time. That's the paradox, because it's like one of the things I like to say is simplicity demands our deepest attention in order to be appreciated. And this is true of the world and life. And, in other words, when you're enthralled by some natural phenomenon, like a beautiful sunset and the ocean, like a flower, when it really moves you, when you really see it, it's very simple. It's very intimate. It's so close to this. But how many people are bored with that kind of simplicity? It's because they bring all kinds of thoughts and restlessness to the world, to their experience. It takes receptivity to appreciate a beautiful sunset. And it takes receptivity to appreciate a beautiful painting or a piece of music. Painting, the universe, creation, preservation, destruction, the three great forces of cosmos. And eternal interplay in the eternity of the moment, in eternal time and space. The artist in the middle of nature, immersing themselves by noting the colors in front of them and allowing their attention, their awareness, who they are, to be carried deep within, from the moment to moment flow of life energy. like the music of scenes, that beautiful moment-to-moment expression of sound and artistic personality, the sensitivity, and the intelligence expressed. Music. We love music. We love art. Music. The passages of tone, the rhythms of brush, received at the roots of perception. A sword capable of cutting through the dead concepts of fashion and stylization. Music. Painting.